promised to be the ultimate farewell to Ethan Hunt's long journey. But today, I'm going to explain why the final reckoning turned into what many critics call a flop. Let's not start from zero. The Mission Impossible series has built a legacy of high-wire stunts, lean scripts, and a balance of thrills and humor. In the last few films under Christopher McQuarrie, the series leaned into bold set pieces while still delivering coherent narratives. So when they announced Final Reckoning as, possibly, the series finale, expectations were enormous. Could they close it with emotion, a great climax, and a story that mattered? Before we dig into the flaws, it's fair to say the movie has its redeeming moments, and those are important, because they show that this is not a flop, just a flawed one. As Roger Ebert said, the action sequences remain jaw-dropping. The underwater sub-hull scenes and the high-altitude biplane stunt are often singled out as highlights. Punch-drunk critic says Tom Cruise still puts his body and ego on the line, doing stunts older actors might refuse. That commitment always gives the film some credibility. One of the punch-drunk critics also says, for longtime fans, there are callbacks, character moments, and emotional beats tied to Hunt's decisions across the franchise. Those gestures show awareness that this is supposed to be a final reckoning. So it is not a trash, but we can say it is a flawed one. Here's where the word flop comes in the way of Ethan Hunt. These are the critical failure points. The first hour is frequently criticized as the weakest in the entire series. Brian Tallarico calls it unwieldy and truly clunky. Critics note that the film drowns us in monologues about Ethan's past, flashbacks, and grim voiceover that slows momentum. As The Guardian writes, so much of this new film suffering from solemnity overload drowns us in dumb, endless litanies. Because the film leans so heavily on referencing past installments, it forces in characters and scenes that sometimes feel shoehorned. As one critic put it, the film doesn't care you've been watching for years or not, it treats everything like a Cliff's Notes. The Medium review argues that MI films have never been built to demand deep franchise memory, but here the film requires it, and that breaks immersion. The movie's villain, the Entity, an AI, is ambitious in premise, but many felt it lacked threat, nuance, or coherence. The human villain, Gabriel, Isai Morales, is seen by critics as underused or overshadowed. Also, The Hollywood Reporter says, by dealing with existential stakes, world destruction via AI, the film often feels abstract, losing the grounded touch that earlier MI films had. One of MI's charms was a self-awareness. The wink, the cheeky line, the moment you sensed they knew how over-the-top things were. In Final Reckoning, that humor is mostly missing. Roger Ebert's review notes, it's less fun, and that's truly disappointing for a series that has given us some of the most fun in action history. The Nerdist review is harsher. Boring exposition dumps, clunky dialogue, the script is simply not that good. Running nearly 3 hours, many say it overstays its welcome. The expanded runtime does not pay off proportionally. Instead, it accentuates the weak stretches. Also, the film often confines itself to tunnels, submarines, caves, a contrast to the grand vistas audiences expect from this series. The Guardian argues it feels small, even as it tries to be epic. Now, the question, is it really a flop? The answer is crystal clear. On Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds around an 80% score. That means critics overall are positive, though more cautiously so than for previous MI films. Audience polling, CinemaScore, and PostTrack shows an A- grade and about 89% positive response in one survey. However, the financial side is shaky. The film reportedly had a budget of $300 to $400 million before marketing. Trade sources and box office analysts have already called it a flop. One social post claims, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is a flop. The Guardian writes that the film opening weekend was underwhelming, and the movie loses out to Lilo and Stitch in some way telling. So, while the film might not be a critical disaster, its profitability is under serious question. High expectations plus enormous cost equals much steeper fall. So, is Final Reckoning a flop? In many people's eyes, critics and box office watchers, yes. I believe Final Reckoning is a cautionary tale. When you try to go bigger than ever before, sometimes you lose the heart that made your story compelling. It's still worth watching, especially for fans. But this film reminds us that spectacle alone can't carry a legacy. See you all in my next video.